Good day to you. This is Galactic on the 21st day of June in 2025 from Chico, California. Over here you'll see one of my heroes, Sir Roger Penrose, who's still going strong. I believe he's 93 years old and just as sharp as ever. In this brief segment, we're just going to listen to about 1 minute of this. Sir Roger is attempting, as so often, to explain to an interviewer just what in the world is quantum mechanics. What is it? Well, it's one of the strangest questions ever posed to the mind of man, because there is no way to say what it is. And that actually is the problem, is that nobody knows what it is. It's unknowable. Well, of course, that would grind the gears of any true scientist. Someone who wants to know what the universe actually says. That's a true scientist. If you have to use mathematics, why, God bless you. Use anything. Use a crowbar. Well, now, that's actually what's being done now. The theme of this brief presentation from Galactic today is to give a brand new definition. And if successful, it will be the first. I claim to be able to do that. I alone can tell someone what is quantum mechanics, because only I know. So that is a major discovery. If I'm right, and I guarantee you I am, but you must not believe that. If you're a true scientist, you don't believe a goddamned word that anyone says, no matter how many PhDs, no matter how many Nobel Prize laureates they have, no matter who respects them or how many people agree with that man. Not once, not ever. You never trust a man. Never. You can't. We're always wrong. A human is always wrong. It's almost the definition of being a human. I would say, as a scientist, you're not going to be correct. And you have to get used to that. But you see, if you're vying for government contracts, as 4 generations of mathematicians have been bred into this system of just pure money grubbing. It's the same old, it's the rat race. Only now, you see, the government has a vested interest in the outcome. So the government is willing to spend billions of dollars a year to pay mathematicians to figure out what? The quantum paradox? The government couldn't give a fuck what the truth is, unless it explodes. So it's to power the Hadron Collider satanic system. It is a satanic system. Now, you may not like that, I know. My fellow Americans just can't stand religious concepts. You're going to have to grow up really, really quickly and get over your childhood trauma where the pastor, reached into your pants, right? Tried to stick his finger up your ass. Or the bishop raped you. It happens every day to millions of children. Certainly in the public education system of America, just being tortured into accepting the most harebrained notions ever to come out of the sinful mind of man. Well, once you reach the age of 14 as a male, you're now culpable. You're on your own. You'd better figure it out. But if you do, most likely your life will be over very quickly. Because you have to get along in this world. Well, that means you have to make a pact with the devil. You must. You're forced to. And nobody escapes that. You have to join your ass with Satan's ass. There is no way out of that. And then you're absolutely required to rebel. You have to rebel, or you're not going to heaven. You're not going to get what you want out of this life. You'll go to hell instead. All right, that's our bracketing information for a little segment about one of the most satanic ideas ever composed in the sinful mind of man. What is it? Remember, this is superpositional. So everything that's just pure evil, just designed to kill you, period. It's also the greatest and highest form of good. It's the actual voice of God and the devil at the same time, trying to get your attention. Because whatever you give your attention to, that's what you worship. That's what you worship. For 99% of Americans, certainly, it's just narcissism. You worship yourself. That's the first thing that a young American is taught. You have to be all you can be on your own. It's up to you. You make up your own mind. You stick with it. But it's satanic. It is that you have to get your ass to work and work for the fucking government. Whatever you do, all governments are communist. It's just a question of degree. But it all comes to communism. The United States government is communist. In a way worse than communist Russia. But that would be, if it's a body count, perhaps tens of thousands of Americans have lost their lives to the government. I think it's more because of the prison system. But nobody can beat communist Russia. Murdered. Not just ruined the lives of, but actually captured, took into custody, put in a slave labor camp, and murdered. 100 million whites. They were all white. I throw that in because this is a white world. Islam is not recognized. The Chinese are not recognized. The blacks certainly are not recognized. Only the whites have mathematics. Only the whites get into outer space. Only the whites have bombs. Only the whites are imperialist. Only the whites are megalomaniac. So the white governments are Satan on earth. That is Satan, no matter how you look at it. If you don't think it's an angel, goody for you, you little brat. But you're still going to have to face it scientifically. Satan is the collective mind of man. Nobody can argue that. But in religion, of course, anything can be argued. Okay, we're now going to take a look at this segment in order to find out what this great scientist, I just completely admire Sir Roger Penrose. I wore out his book. His big, thick one that I call The Laws of the Universe. He actually entitled it Road to Reality. Well, he's at the end of the road just like everybody else. Sir Roger has a very fruitful and positive-oriented mind, in contradistinction to most mathematicians who are just pure negativists, trying to hold on to their goddamn pile of money like some fucking dragon out of a Tolkien bitch novel. So Sir Roger is going to just talk to us here for a second about a magical term called cohomology. Cohomology. You might guess that that's related to homology. Sir Roger is going to drop this stink bomb of a word. He knows what he's talking about, but nobody else will. I'm here to be your translator. When he comes to the word cohomology, don't let that throw you. I'm going to tell you how you can translate that word when Roger gets to it. Cohomology can be rewritten so that it defines what it actually is. Como whole agi. The key word is whole, like a hole in your head, or a hole in your ass, as Americans like to say. In this case, it's more of a hole in the head, but what it's translated to in pseudogeometry is a hole in your number system. It's a hole in linear mathematics. It's zero. And in topology, this is a branch of topology. What is topology? Surface. It's a surface. Well, a surface shouldn't have a hole in it. Why would a surface have a hole in it? It's called a singularity. And this word has several applications. So cohomology is essentially an abstract metaphor for a hole. You're just talking about a hole. But you see, here in mathematics, you have to be precise. Is it a rabbit hole? I mean, is it a caldera? That's a hole. What kind of a hole? What is this hole? Nobody has figured out what the hole is. And so topology and homology and cohomology are part of an incredibly fractalized, super ramified, rather pointless, achieving no goals. It's kind of like a witch dance. They're dancing around a hole, and they can't say that it's a hole because that means they're wrong. What everyone is trying to define is what is the goddamned hole. So you have ring theory, you have Lie algebra, you have what are called symmetries, and you may have heard of supersymmetry. That is a corrupted word. Symmetry has a very specific meaning that's incredibly important to a rational logician. But these mathematicians own no shame. They just are shameless. So they invent these fancy group theory models that are just dancing around this motherfucking hole. It's when you try to study the spherical surface, the sphere makes a surface. And I've covered that so often, I'm sure you recognize that everything in physics is spherical. Well, that's a surface, it's not a straight line. A straight line has no surface, and a cube has no surface. Only a sphere has a surface and volume space. So where's the hole? The hole in the sphere, which has no hole. The sphere is with a W in front of the H. W-H-O-L-E is the opposite of H-O-L-E. Either it's whole or it's a hole. So even the terminology is like a goddamned anagram. Is it any wonder that our students are being slaughtered by the millions as they encounter calculus or higher math and just face a brick fucking wall with no hole in it? But the whole brick wall is predicated on there being a gaping wound in the system. And that gaping wound has come out and is at the top of the charts in science now. The quantum mechanical system is a gigantic hole in the head. Can't fill it in. It can't be approached. It can't even be named. So Sir Roger Penrose is going to try to do the impossible now. For the 10,000th time in a century, nobody can define the whole. It's killing us. It's driving everybody literally psychotic because we have to get this answer or we cannot restart physics. We can't achieve our goals. My goals as well as anyone else's. It affects a rational logician just as much as it affects any goddamned mathematician. It is from top to bottom, from all the way through the system now, there is this gigantic, gaping, leprotic wound. It's just a gigantic, cancerous crater. And nobody can define even what the problem is. Well, that's why I'm here. I'm here to finally solve it. So let's listen to Sir Roger give us a clue on how we can attack the most difficult, infuriating, frustrating, damning problem ever faced by the human mind in this category. Let's go.
As a whole, but which you can't pinpoint as having any location. But yet it's a feature of the entire...
A whole that has no location. A whole that has no location. This is H-O-L-E. Not what David Bohm says it is, which is with a W. That W changes everything from black to white, using black as pure evil, of course, and white as pure good. It's the difference of a W in front of the word H-O-L-E. Whole. Let's listen to that again.
And that's what you get in quantum mechanics. You can't say that this thing in itself, well, you can treat it as a thing on its own, but the way in which it's entangled with the other thing is one of these non-local ideas. And there are mathematical structures which very much mirror that kind of non-locality. And this was what...
Okay, non-locality. Whenever you see someone of Sir Roger's caliber and equanimity doing this, just waving his hands like he's retarded, they all do this when they think that they're visualizing this whole and they're trying to tell you what it is. They can't. They can't do it. It can't be done. Let's hear what Sir Roger says here.
What's the most local thing you can think of? Well, a point, you see. And in relativity, it's not a point in space only. It has an instantaneous existence. It's what people call an event. It's blip. It's a point with no temporal extension. So it's a momentary thing. So that's a point in space-time. You might say that's the most basic thing.
Time cannot be localized. That's what he's trying to say, but he doesn't want to say it because that makes no sense. But that is the answer. The answer is you're trying to get a position, which already is a Euclidean point. It has no dimension. That's the nature of a position, because everything else is real except for the position, which is the negation of reality. It's not even there. It has no definition except in correspondence with the backdrop. So you could say that the point is the spatial aspect of a field of time. So the point is being isolated in time, not in space. It's being isolated in time. That leads to the answer, but only after you endure a complete psychotic breakdown, in which case the big funny car can come along and put you in a straitjacket and take you away to pee in your pants forever in a little cubby to keep you away from society because you've lost your goddamned marbles. So a position has nothing to do with time, for the very reason that it has everything to do with time. That's the whole in the system. It's the correspondence between time, which is fully not understood. There is no definition of time, except I have the very first correct definition of time. I got it. So I have the answer. Sir Roger does not. No man has this answer. Our top brains have been foiled to the point of just peeing in their pants. They just can't do it. But the government is paying billions of dollars for them to think about this because they want the strong force. And the strong force has to do with that whole. The electron is that whole. It's just a hole without a W in front of it. Nobody can make the whole part of this system. It's antithetical to this system. If your system has a hole in it, you don't have a system. You have a hole. All right, let's listen to that again.
Well, you don't look at it that way. You look at it, the basic thing, or let's
Look
say
at his
more
hands.
basic thing, is the light ray. So you imagine you sit at that point and you look out at the sky. If you know where it is.
Look at him.
If you're in space, the sky goes all the way around, you see. And you look out at
There's
the
the way
sky.
to explain it.
And that family of
They
light
can't help
rays coming into your eye, each one is a non-local thing, but that entire family is that local point. So you're kind of changing the view of what you regard as local. You're saying, what's the local thing is not the point anymore, but it's the whole light ray, and that...
The whole thing is the locality. Well, that's non-local locality. And that's the best definition for a layman who really doesn't have much clue, through no fault of your own or mine. what is quantum mechanics, or what is quantum anything? What the hell are you even talking about? What are you studying? What is the problem? Non-local position. Non-local position, so it's not Euclidean. It has to be a holism. Without... See, holism refers to W-H-O-L-E. It should be wholism. Wholism. Even right down to syntax, grammar, language, the way we think, the way we use words. Everything is entangled now. Nothing makes sense. You can't even get your tongue untied. So look at Roger there, trying to gesticulate to get his vision out, that the thing that we keep trying to measure that gives us the measurement problem is we're trying to localize a phenomenon, really in order to make it particulate, because a particle does have a position unless it's an electron. Only one particle actually has a position, the proton. The proton makes its own position, so it's a spatial particle. Where does that leave the electron? A big hole. It's a hole in the whole system. There can be no such thing as an electron. The electron is the quantum paradox. But it gets worse, much worse. The reason the electron is a non-local locality, which is a contradiction, you can't even say that. It makes no sense. That's what they're forced to say. It's a non-local position. That's a direct contradiction to classical physics. So that is the paradox. And the way Roger put it is genius. He said it's a point, but it's a point that is not the Euclidean definition of a point. Well, that's what I discovered. What is a point if it's non-Euclidean? Well, first you have to go back to the first sentence of Elements, after which you can just throw out the rest of the book, which is unreadable, let's face it. It was the only guiding star for 2,000 fucking years. 2,500 years is this goddamn point that has no existence. That's the whole. It was invented by Euclid. It's called the Euclidean point. And it's in the very first sentence of Elements. You really need to read the first two sentences, and then after that, the rest is trash. Because there are two enormous mistakes made in Euclidean geometry. Well, of course, it's from the Bronze Age, for Christ's sake. Why are we still using this stupid Euclidean system when it has a gigantic hole in it? It's axiomatized on nullity. That's the definition of a broken system. So what is the non-Euclidean point? If I told you, you simply wouldn't believe me. So I'm not going to tell you. I have the answer. And whereas Sir Roger and all the other physicists and mathematicians simply cannot tell you what quantum mechanics is, they cannot do it. It can't be done. But I, who actually have the correct definition, it's not that I can't tell you, it's that I just flat out won't. I'm not going to tell you what the answer is, because there's no way you would believe me. And it's not my fault. It's your fault. And so we're just going to leave it at that, with you just on your way to hell and me going to heaven. And that's the end of our lecture. I'm not going to tell you. You're going to have to keep listening to my lectures, or you're never going to know the answer. You're never going to know the answer. Let's listen to a little more.
Treated as a local thing. And it turns upside down the normal view of what we think of as locality. So that was where this started from. And then the idea I was describing about the triangle is something which I didn't expect, but it's in a way a more subtle way in which something can be non-local. And so the view I'm holding, and I definitely hold to this, is that it's that kind of non-locality which quantum mechanics is exhibiting. And you can certainly see that also. My example was only for a single particle, but if you have two particles or three particles...
All right. So there's quite a bit more to this lecture. This is entitled An Extended Interview with Sir Roger Penrose from the movie Infinite Potential. If you look hard, you'll be able to watch this documentary for free online. I'll give a link eventually, but I'm not in the mood to give out any answers right now. What I want you to understand is the problem. And the more you understand why everyone's tongue-tied and nobody can say word one, they just can't even open their mouths to talk about this. Sir Roger attempted to do so, and he is most qualified to do this. What he's saying is the same thing that David Bohm said, and Einstein fully backed up David Bohm, even though David Bohm changed to a point of view which the reason Einstein credited David Bohm, even though it's not exactly Einsteinian, it is in the sense that Einstein was seeking hidden variables, which is a blanketing term for the whole. He's trying to find what's in the whole. Well, the only way to get out of that trap is to somehow integrate the whole, which is a fool's errand. Well, that's what I undertook. It really came to me from the top down, not the bottom up, or vice versa, depending on your orientation and super-orientation. But I learned what the whole actually is. It's a physical object. It's a geometric object. And it re-axiomatizes space in a non-Euclidean formulation, which really turns off industry mathematicians, which is all of them. Because you're not going to get any money if you're non-Euclidean. It's satanically controlled. And that's a half an hour. Thank you very much. I'll have another presentation later today. This, by the way, is a double Windsor knot. I've been experimenting with necktie knots over the past few months because, like most boys, I find it extremely frustrating to tie a necktie knot. But I got some instruction on how to tie a double Windsor knot, and I tried some variations which weren't very good, but now I've got it. This is a double Windsor knot. I have the tie clip at an angle so that it doesn't stick out on both sides laterally. And it makes kind of a, I look presentable, right? That's the whole idea. So I will be back later today to give you the much more ramified definition of what is in that hole. What is that hole that's driving everybody out of their ever-loving minds? With the exception of Roger Penrose and David Bohm, and those who are affiliated with their holistic solution, which I have developed in the opposite direction. They have a metaphysical answer. I have the geometry and mathematics that proves they're right, because only I know what's in that hole. Only I can define non-local locality. Only I can define position and momentum in a way that is so explanatory, it's beyond miraculous. It's the most important discovery ever made in the history of mathematics or physics, or physical mathematics, or mathematical physics. My discovery, and it's pure geometry. It's non-Euclidean geometry. It's the only other geometry. And none of your brilliant mathematicians have had the noodles to put together what I put together. So if you tune in, you're going to get the answer. If you don't tune in, you will die in ignorance. And if you're trying to understand the quantum anything, you never will. But if you listen to me, you'll understand far, far beyond anything. The spookiest aspect of quantum mechanics is pedestrian compared with a holistic truth. It's called the implicate order in David Bohm's system. That's pure genius, and the Dalai Lama agrees. So does Roger Penrose. He's a David Bohm fan, and he knew the man quite well. They used to get together every week. I recommend this extended interview, and I recommend the documentary movie Infinite Potential about the life of the superphysicist David Bohm, by far the greatest scientist in his class in the 20th century, because he finally, unlike anyone else, finally saw through the quantum paradox to get a metaphysical answer. He had to step outside of science, but he's correct, because this has ramifications that go all the way to the highest heaven and into the depths of your soul to unite you with reality. I'll be your guide. Stay tuned. This is Anagalactic, bringing you the secrets of the universe. We'll be right back.